Welcome back to our channel, your premier source for the most explosive updates from Genoa City. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the dramatic lives of our favorite characters. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let us unpack the latest heart-stopping twists that are about to change everything. The sprawling, majestic estate of the Newman family has always stood as a towering symbol of absolute power, unyielding resilience, and a legacy forged in ruthless ambition. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of the ranch and the carefully curated public image of Victor and Nikki Newman, an insidious darkness is rapidly spreading, threatening to consume one of their most beloved sons. As the family gathers to celebrate a moment of profound unity, the stark contrast between the illusion of familial perfection and the grim reality of addiction is about to be violently exposed. How can a family so accustomed to controlling every aspect of their destiny be so utterly blind to the fatal unraveling happening right in their own backyard? Nicholas Newman, the golden boy who has spent a lifetime shouldering the immense, suffocating weight of his family's expectations, has finally broken under the pressure. His recent, shocking descent into the harrowing abyss of severe drug addiction has stripped away his armor, leaving him profoundly vulnerable and dangerously isolated. Having prematurely abandoned his treatment at a specialized rehabilitation facility, Nick has traded the difficult, necessary path of recovery for the toxic, codependent embrace of Marie Kirkland. As he navigates the treacherous waters of his addiction, the once protective brother has transformed into a master of deception. Will anyone be able to pierce through the dense fog of Nick's lies before it is entirely too late? Enter Adam Newman, a man intimately acquainted with the darkest corners of the human soul. Historically positioned as the black sheep, the eternal outsider, and Nick's bitterest rival, Adam has recently found himself thrust into the unlikely role of his brother's fierce protector. Despite drowning in his own catastrophic crises, including the mind-shattering revelation that Victor is not his biological father, Adam's complex bond with Nick has momentarily eclipsed his personal agony. Adam recognizes the terrifying signs of a man standing on the precipice of self-destruction because he has stood on that exact same ledge countless times himself. But can Adam's dark experience truly equip him to save a brother who is actively fighting against his own salvation? The tension reaches a suffocating crescendo during a highly charged, private confrontation between the two brothers, shortly before the vow renewal festivities commence. Adam, his eyes sharp and filled with a frantic, uncharacteristic desperation, corners Nick, demanding the absolute truth about his sudden, alarming departure from the rehab center. Nick, his charisma weaponized by his desperate physiological need for his next fix, looks his brother dead in the eye and delivers a flawlessly constructed lie. With a smooth, reassuring cadence that completely masks the chaotic tremors of his withdrawal, Nick solemnly promises Adam that his exit was merely a temporary lapse and that he is fully committed to returning to the facility immediately. How could Nick so effortlessly deceive the brother who is currently risking everything to pull him back from the brink? To understand the profound tragedy of this deception, one must delve deeply into the shattered psychology of Nicholas Newman. This is not the malicious lying of a calculated villain. This is the desperate primal survival instinct of a man whose brain chemistry has been entirely hijacked by narcotics. As Nick weaves his intricate web of reassurances, assuring Adam that he has finally found his clarity, his internal reality is a screaming, agonizing void, demanding to be filled. The drugs offer a fleeting, euphoric escape from the crushing reality of his existence, a chemical sanctuary where the expectations of Victor Newman cannot reach him. In this tragic moment, Nick is not lying to hurt Adam, he is lying to protect his addiction, which has become the most vital, consuming relationship in his fractured life. Will this profound betrayal of trust be the catalyst that finally severs the fragile bond between the Newman brothers? The true, horrifying extent of Nick's deception is revealed the very second Adam, momentarily appeased but still harboring a gnawing pit of unease, turns his back. The facade of the repentant, recovering addict instantly evaporates, replaced by the frantic, sweat-drenched urgency of a man in the throes of severe withdrawal. Hidden in the opulent shadows of the Newman estate, while the rest of the family prepares for a celebration of love and endurance, Nick secretly pulls out a burner phone to arrange a lethal transaction. He orchestrates a covert meeting to purchase a massive, dangerous quantity of narcotics, his hands trembling as he finalizes the lethal exchange. The sheer recklessness of conducting a drug deal on the heavily guarded grounds of the Newman Ranch underscores the absolute, terrifying power the addiction now holds over him. How long can Nick continue this deadly dance before the music inevitably, tragically stops? Meanwhile, as the sun begins to set over Genoa City, casting long, ominous shadows across the manicured lawns of the estate, Adam is violently struck by a paralyzing wave of dread. The conversation with Nick replays on a continuous, torturous loop in his mind. The words were perfectly right, but the micro-expressions, the slight dilation of Nick's pupils, the nervous, involuntary twitch in his jaw, they all screamed of a catastrophic lie. Adam's finely tuned instincts begin to sound a deafening alarm. A profound, icy panic grips his chest as he realizes the horrifying truth. Nick has no intention of returning to rehab. The reassurances were a smokescreen, a desperate ploy to buy time for a fatal indulgence. The realization hits Adam with the force of a physical blow, leaving him breathless and utterly terrified for his brother's life. What will Adam do now that he knows the golden boy of the Newman family is actively sprinting toward his own demise? Inside the grand, lavishly decorated main house, the atmosphere is thick with profound emotion and a fragile sense of hope as Victor and Nikki Newman prepare to reaffirm their enduring, albeit deeply complicated, love. Nikki, currently grappling with the terrifying reality of her fluctuating blindness and the crushing weight of her own explosive secrets, looks ethereal yet profoundly vulnerable. Victor, fiercely protective and completely oblivious to the biological betrayal that is about to annihilate his worldview, stands as the unwavering patriarch. Yet, the glaring, agonizing absence of Nick Newman casts a heavy, suffocating pall over the proceedings, a silent scream that something is terribly, fundamentally wrong. How can a family celebrate the endurance of their legacy when one of its vital pillars is actively crumbling into dust? As the deeply moving ceremony unfolds, Adam finds himself entirely incapable of focusing on the poignant words being exchanged by Victor and Nikki. He stands near the back of the room, his jaw clenched so tightly it aches, his eyes darting frantically toward the grand entrance, praying for Nick to walk through the doors. Every passing second amplifies the deafening roar of anxiety in his ears. Adam's mind is racing through 1,000 terrifying scenarios, each darker and more fatal than the last. He knows with absolute, chilling certainty that the longer Nick is missing, the closer he is to a point of no return. Will Adam disrupt the sacred ceremony, or will he carry the crushing burden of this terrifying hunt alone? Unable to endure the agonizing suspense for another second, Adam quietly slips out of the opulent living room, leaving the warmth and light of the celebration behind as he plunges into the cool, unforgiving darkness of the Newman estate. The sprawling grounds, usually a symbol of the family's immense wealth and security, now feel like a vast, terrifying labyrinth hiding a deadly secret. Adam breaks into a frantic sprint, his heart hammering violently against his ribs, his breath coming in ragged, desperate gasps. He checks the stables, the guest houses, the expansive gardens, calling out Nick's name into the silent, indifferent night, receiving nothing but the mocking echo of his own panicked voice in return. The sheer size of the property becomes a horrifying obstacle, a sprawling expanse where a man could easily disappear and die completely unnoticed. Where could Nick be hiding, and what horrifying state will Adam find him in? The frantic search culminates in a moment of sheer, unadulterated horror that will forever be burned into Adam Newman's retinas. Deep in a secluded, rarely visited corner of the sprawling Newman estate, hidden behind a thick grove of ancient oak trees, Adam spots a dark, motionless shape crumpled unnaturally on the cold ground. As he sprints closer, the ambient light from a distant security lamp illuminates the devastating, heartbreaking reality. It is Nick. He is lying completely still, his body twisted in a grotesque, agonizing angle that speaks of a sudden, violent collapse. The immediate area is littered with the damning, undeniable evidence of a massive, reckless drug overdose paraphernalia scattered carelessly in the dirt, a tragic testament to the absolute loss of control. The golden boy of Genoa City has been reduced to a broken, lifeless shell in the dirt of his own family's fortress. How could the mighty Nicholas Newman have fallen so far, so fast, and so tragically? Adam drops to his knees with a guttural, agonizing cry that tears from the very depths of his soul, the sound echoing mournfully into the night. He frantically reaches out, his trembling hands gripping Nick's broad shoulders, pulling his brother's limp, heavy body into his arms. Nick's usually vibrant skin has turned a ghastly, translucent shade of grey, his lips tinged with a horrifying, cyanotic blue. Adam presses two trembling fingers against the side of Nick's neck, desperately searching for a pulse. The silence stretches into an eternity, a suffocating void where hope goes to die, before Adam finally detects a rhythm, but it is impossibly weak, erratic, and dangerously faint. Nick's breathing is shallow, ragged, and alarmingly infrequent, the terrifying death rattle of a man whose central nervous system is rapidly shutting down. Is this the tragic, undignified end of Nicholas Newman's story? Pure, unadulterated adrenaline floods Adam's system, temporarily overriding his paralyzing terror as he desperately tries to save his brother's life. He begins to frantically perform emergency first aid, shaking Nick violently, slapping his pale cheeks, and screaming his brother's name with a raw, desperate ferocity that shreds his vocal cords. Adam knows that every passing second, without adequate oxygen, is causing irreversible, catastrophic damage to Nick's brain. He desperately fumbles for his phone, dialing emergency services with a frantic, shaking hand, screaming for an ambulance to be dispatched immediately to the Newman ranch. When the wailing sirens of the ambulance finally pierce the quiet night air, shattering the illusion of the Newman estate's impenetrable security, the devastating truth will be impossible to hide. Will Nick survive this catastrophic overdose, or will the crushing, toxic weight of the Newman legacy finally claim its ultimate tragic victim?